I'm recording.
I'm recording.
Me too.
Dude,
Okay.
I discovered that Google Hangouts cannot send photos. That's what happened. That's why it just
Exploded.
I tried to send you guys
We're
a
like,
photo.
we lost Angela. Where'd she go?
Goodbye, sweet Angela. We are
Sounds
having
like
a lot
do
of
not.
fucking troubleshooting.
We are.
That's
Getting
what
back
happens
into
when we
it.
take a month and a half off.
I
Welcome back, ladies. Cheers.
Welcome back.
Cheers. Dink.
I love
Cheers.
you guys.
Love you too, Tay.
Missed you.
Yeah,
It's the
sorry,
spooky
friends,
spooks.
that we took a little bit of a time out. Life things happened. I moved into a new zone. Angela moved into a new zone. And
Yeah.
life happens,
Yeah.
man.
Life happens, and we'll talk about that another time, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, so are we just jumping into it? Should I?
Yeah,
should
let's
I-
just
fucking
fucking
go.
do this shit.
Let's fucking go.
All right.
You know your life is just a dream, don't you?
Welcome to Who Fucking Knows, a podcast where three friends, a blonde, a brunette, and a redhead, discuss conspiracy theories that make you say, who fucking knows what happened. My name is Angela.
I'm Taylor.
I'm Lexi.
And this little green guy is Travis. I don't know.
Hello, Travis.
If you're watching on YouTube, you can see him. If you're listening on Spotify, who fucking knows, then you're not seeing him, but you should check us out. We got a blog,
You
all that
should.
good fun shit too.
Travis
see your
is
faces.
super hot, so you're missing out if you're not watching us on YouTube.
He's my type of guy.
Tall, green, 2 eyes, everything you want. Y'all drinking tonight?
Yes.
I'm
drinking a red wine. It's a Cabernet Sauvignon, or whatever, however you say it. I always fuck it up,
Sauvignon?
but it's called Bird Rock.
Ooh, that's a cool name.
Yeah. So that's what I got in my cup.
Nice.
Good choice. Mine is the same, actually, Cabernet Sauvignon, but it's $2 Chuck from Trader Joe's, so
Ooh.
it's probably not as fancy.
Hey, but their wine is amazing in my opinion.
Mhm.
Affordable and
It is
I can
really
drink
good,
it,
and it's
you know.
$2.
Mhm. Well, it's like $2.99 now, so it's like $3.
That's true. Still.
I'm drinking an 805 out of a glass that is from Petaluma, from San Francisco, and Petaluma for January when we all were together last and before the world stopped.
Pre-COVID. That was probably like the last big thing that I did, honestly,
Yeah,
Same.
before COVID.
that is true.
Crazy.
I know, I miss that. I can't
Good
wait to
times.
hang out with you guys after all this is said and
Karaoke.
done. Yeah.
Putting who fucking knows stickers on people.
Yes. Oh my god.
Now we can't even do that with social distancing.
6 feet apart. How are we supposed to put stickers on people?
We will find a way. You know, like the little, like the long things with the face
Little
on the end, like a
grabby
shark.
grabbers.
Like a little shark. It just like. And then if they
Yeah.
get mad, they can't get mad at a little shark face or a little
That's
alien.
true.
That would be a little bit more on brand.
Yeah. That would be great.
Should we like get into stories and shit?
Yeah, so I got some
Sure.
current news for you. I don't know if you guys know this, but later this month, NASA will be launching a new Mars rover.
Oh shit.
I didn't know.
It on July 30th. Its name is Perseverance, and super exciting about this is that the rover will seek signs of ancient life. And it will collect rock and soil samples and possibly be returned to the Earth depending on how well the mission goes. It's launching from Florida and it'll be landing on Mars on February 18th, 2021. But how cool is the fact that it's going to be looking for signs of like ancient life? I think that's
so cool.
It's probably going to be looking for like old like bioorganisms or whatever it's called. I don't know, but I'm hoping they find a skeleton
Or ancient aliens.
Yeah,
What if they find something and they don't tell us?
they probably would.
probably.
Yeah.
Based on their fucking track record.
Yeah.
Very true.
But yeah, that's what I got for you for current news.
Cool. That's exciting. July 30th.
Yeah, so
Well,
Perseverance. I love the names they give them.
I do too. Perseverance. That's so sweet.
We just sent 2 astronauts back up into space and everything not that long ago.
That was a few weeks ago.
I don't know if you guys watched the launch, but I did. It was right before I moved because I was like, shit.
It's really cool.
History's
It's
happening.
a moment in history.
It's crazy how fast they get up into space. Like, whoa, they're there. Oh my god.
Yeah, crazy shit. All right, so I also have a story for you guys. So
Yay.
Back in the good stuff.
Story time.
Yeah. Have you guys ever heard of the Georgia Guidestones?
No.
No. Okay, well, let me pull up my notes because my computer's being a little funky. All right, cool. So, the strangest monument in America looms over a barren knoll in northeastern Georgia. 5 massive slabs of polished granite rise out of the earth in a star pattern. So the rocks are each 16 feet tall, with 4 of them weighing more than 20 tons apiece. Together...
Sorry.
Oh, what happened?
I knocked over a cup, and luckily it was not the one with my beer, so we're okay.
Woo, we're in the clear.
A scream.
So together, they support a 25,000-pound capstone. Approaching it, it's hard not to think immediately of England's Stonehenge, or possibly the ominous monolith from 2001: A Space Odyssey. So, built in 1980, these pale gray rocks are quietly awaiting the end of the world as we know it. And you'll kind of understand that as I talk about it more. So, in 1980, it was built, and they on them there are a set of 10 guidelines inscribed in 8 modern languages, and the languages are English, Spanish, Russian, Chinese, Arabic, Hebrew, Hindi, and Swahili. So these 10 guidelines are as follows. So the first is to maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. Okay. So pretty much it's stating like the Earth's population should be kept at 500 million or less. Wow, and as of 2018, there's
700 billion or something. Yeah. 7 billion.
7 billion.
Yeah, there's 7.6 billion who live on Earth at this time, or as of 2018.
A little over.
Yeah,
just a lot.
a little bit over. So pretty much like to keep at this guideline, we would pretty much have to get rid of almost 94% of the people on this earth as of right now.
That's what COVID's for.
Yeah, maybe.
Just kidding, that was dark. I'm sorry.
So actually though, there are like different conspiracy theories about that have talked about the Georgia guidelines in reference to COVID, because they're like, what is this? You know? So the second one is guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity. So we can discern that this commandment is related to abortion. So in the last 40 years since Roe versus Wade was passed, it is estimated that almost 2 billion abortions have been performed worldwide. Over 60 million abortions have happened in the U.S. since 1973. So it's kind of like that guideline is like, okay, guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity. So is that like, hey, like keep the population low and make sure that if whoever is being born, it's chosen for like fitness and diversity. And then the next one is insanity. Unite humanity with a living new language. So you can make of that as you will, but I guess they want like a universal language. And then
I wouldn't be mad about that. But
yeah, like that one's like, But I feel like the only thing about that is there's so much culture rooted in language.
Well, it's kind of like, if you look at it this way, like English is kind of starting to become the primary language in a lot of different countries that are still teaching their mother tongue as well. But this is what's kind of bridging that gap, especially with all the technology that we have these days and stuff of that nature. So if it's kind of like, if we can't have a universal language, at least we have the tools to like, you know, like the Google speak or whatever. And you say like, hi, my name is Taylor and I'm looking for the bus stop. And then it does it in whatever language you need it to.
Yeah,
for someone.
There's actually I I saw in the past, I saw it like a few years ago, so maybe it's out by now, but people were working on these headphones that automatically translate in your ears. So you'd be talking to someone in a
Wow.
different language and it would be translating it for you.
That's
which is like,
crazy.
dude, that would come in clutch. But if you lost
is
them, then
cool.
you'd be like, oh fuck, you know. But anyways, continuing, the next one is rule passion, faith, tradition, and all things with tempered reason. So pretty much it's like, to be an obedient globalist, one must put aside individual passions. And the next one is to protect people and nations with fair laws and just courts. So it's kind of like going towards a one world government, you know? And then the next one is let all nations rule internally, resolving external disputes in a world court, which again leans towards a more one world government. Next one is avoid petty laws and useless officials, which is, and I think that's just generally probably a good guide to follow, actually.
Wouldn't do harm.
No, wouldn't do harm. And the next one is balance personal rights with social duties. So I think that kind of like falls into like being a part of a one. The next one is prize, truth, beauty, love, seeking harmony with this infinite. So that kind of like points more to like a new age, you know? And then the last one is be not a cancer on the earth, leave room for nature, leave room for nature. So that this is like this big ass monument in Georgia with these guidelines on it in multiple different languages. But what adds to the strangeness of this monument is that nobody knows exactly who commissioned it. So
Who built it?
yeah, so
Made it
Weird.
yeah, so it's like, huh. So the only clues to its origin are on a nearby plaque on the ground, which gives the dimensions and explains a series of intricate notches and holes that correspond to the movements of the sun and the stars and the guides themselves. So there's also a mission statement on that plaque that is in 4 different ancient languages. So it's in Egyptian hieroglyphs, Classical Greek, Sanskrit, and Babylonian cuneiform. And it states what is presumably an English translation of "Let these be guidestones to an age of reason." So what's most widely agreed upon, based on the evidence available, is that the Guidestones are meant to instruct the dozed survivors of some impending apocalypse as they attempt to reconstruct civilization. So the story of the Georgia Guidestones began on Friday afternoon in June 1979 when an elegant gray-haired gentleman showed up in Elbert County, made his way to the office of Elberton Granite Finishing, and introduced himself as Robert C. Christian. He claimed to represent a small group of loyal Americans who had been planning the installation of an unusually large and complex stone monument. Christian had come to Elberton, the county seat and the granite capital of the world, because he believed its quarries produced the finest stone on the planet. John Fenley, Elbert Granite's president, nodded absently, distracted by the rush to complete his weekly payroll. But when Christian began to describe the monument he had in mind, Fenley stopped what he was doing. So not only was the man asking for stones larger than any that had been quarried in the country, he also wanted them cut, finished, and assembled into some kind of enormous astronomical instrument. So what in the world would it be for? Fenley asked. And Christian explained that the structure he had in mind would serve as a compass, calendar, and clock. It would also need to be engraved with a set of guides written in 8 of the world's major languages. And it had to be capable of withstanding the most catastrophic events so that the shattered remnants of humanity would be able to use those guides to reestablish a better civilization than the one that was about to destroy itself. So the monument sits at the highest point in Elbert County, and it is ornated to track the sun's east and west migration year-round. So on an equinox or solstice, visitors who stand at the west side of the mail slot are positioned to see the sun rise at the horizon. An eye-level hole drilled into the center support stone allows stargazers on the south side to locate Polaris, the North Star. A 7/8 inch hole drilled through the capstone focuses a sunbeam on the center column and at noon pinpoints the day of the year. So Fenley is now deceased, but shortly after the Guidestones went up, an Atlanta television reporter asked what he was thinking when he first heard Christian's plan. He said, "I was thinking, I got a nut in here now. How am I going to get him out?" Fenley said. He attempted to discourage the man by quoting him a price several times higher than for any project commissioned there before. The job would require special tools, heavy equipment, and paid consultants, Fenley explained. But Christian merely nodded and asked how long it would take. Fenley didn't rightly know. 6 months, at least. He wouldn't be able to even consider such an undertaking, he added, until he knew it could be paid for. When Christian asked whether there was a banker in town he considered trustworthy, Fenley saw his chance to unload the strange man and sent him to look for Wyatt Martin, president of the Granite City Bank. The tall and courtly Martin, the only man in Elberton besides Fenley known to have met R.C. Christian face to face, is now 78. He says, "Fenley called me and said, a cook over here wants some kind of crazy monument," Martin says. "But when this fella showed up, he was wearing a very nice, expensive suit, which made me take him a little more seriously. And he was well-spoken, obviously an educated man." Martin was naturally taken aback when the man told him straight out that R.C. Christian was a pseudonym. He added that his group had been planning this secretly for 20 years and wanted to remain anonymous forever. And when he told me what it was he and his group wanted to do, I just about fell over, Martin says. "I told him I believe you'd be just as well off to take the money and throw it out in the street into the gutters. He sort of looked at me and shook his head like he felt kind of sorry for me and said, 'You don't understand.'" Martin led Christian down the street to the town square where the city had commissioned a towering bicentennial memorial fountain, which included a ring of 13 granite panels, each roughly 2 by 3 feet, signifying the original colonies. I told him that was about the biggest project ever undertaken around here, and it was nothing compared to what he was talking about, Martin says. That didn't seem to bother him at all. Promising to return on Monday, the man went off to charter a plane and spent the weekend scouting locations from the air. By then, I half believed him, Martin says. When Christian came back to the bank on Monday, Martin explained that he could not proceed unless he could verify the man's true identity and get some assurance that you can pay for this thing. Eventually, the two negotiated an agreement. Christian would reveal his real name on the condition that Martin promised to serve as his sole intermediary, sign a confidentiality agreement, pledging never to disclose the information to another living soul, and agree to destroy all documents and records related to the project when it was finished. He said he was going to send the money. Yeah, it was like, what the fuck? So he said he was going to send the money from different bank accounts across the country, Martin says, because he wanted to make sure it couldn't be traced. He made it clear that he was very serious about secrecy. Before leaving town, Christian met again with Fenley and presented the contractor with a shoebox containing a wooden model of the monument he wanted, plus 10 or so pages of detailed specifications. Fenley accepted the model and instructions, but remained skeptical until Martin phoned the following Friday to say that he had just received a $10,000 deposit. After that, Fenley stopped questioning and started working.
He's like, fuck, I got paid. Let's just do it.
Yeah, he's like, all right, okay. Gave me the money, and I guess I can start working. My daddy loved the challenge, said Fenley's daughter, Melissa Fenley Carso, and he said this was the most challenging project in the history of Elbert County. Construction of the Guidestones got underway later that summer. Fenley's company lovingly documented the progress of the work in hundreds of photographs. Jackhammers were used to gouge 114 feet into the rock at Pyramid Quarry, reaching for hunks of granite big enough to yield the final stones. Fenley and his crew held their breath when the first 28-ton slab was lifted to the surface, wondering if their derricks would buckle under the weight. A special burner was trucked to Alberton to clean and size the stones, and a pair of master stonecutters were hired to smooth them. Fenley and Martin helped Christian to find a suitable site for the Guidestones in Elbert County, a flat-topped hill rising above the pastures of Double Seven Farms with vistas in all directions. For $5,000, owner Wayne Mullick signed over a 5-acre plot. In addition to this payment, Christian granted lifetime cattle grazing rights to Mullick's and his children, and Mullick's construction company got to lay the foundation for the Guidestones. With the purchase of the land, the Guidestones' future was set. Christian said goodbye to Fenley at the Granite Company office, adding, "You'll never see me again." Christian then turned and walked out the door without so much as a handshake. From then on, Christian communicated solely through Martin, writing a few weeks later to ask that ownership of the land and monument be transferred to Elbert County, which still holds it. Christian reasoned that civic pride would protect it over time. All of Mr. Christian's correspondence came from different cities around the country, Martin says. He never sent anything from the same place twice. So the astrological specifications of the Guidestones were so complex that Fenley had to retain the services of an astronomer from the University of Georgia to help implement the design. The 4 outer stones were to be oriented based on the limits of the sun's yearly migration. The center column needed 2 precisely calibrated features, a hole through which the North Star would be visible at all times, and a slot that was to align with the position of the rising sun during the solstice and equinoxes. The principal component of the capstone was the beam of light passing through at noon each day, shining on the center stone to indicate the day of the year.
Okay.
So, yeah. So this is like, this whole thing happened, and the monument actually ignited controversy before it was even finished. The first rumor began among members of Alberton Granite Association, jealous of their attention being showered on of one of their own. Fenley was behind the whole thing, they said, aided with his friend Martin, the banker. The gossip became so poisonous that the 2 men agreed to take a lie detector test at Alberton Civic Center. The scandal withered when the Alberton Star reported that they had both passed convincingly, but the publicity brought a new wave of complaints. As word of what was being inscribed spread, Martin recalls, even people he considered friends asked him why he was doing the devil's work. So a local minister named James Travenseed predicted that occult groups would flock to the Guidestone, warning that someday a sacrifice will take place there. And those inclined to agree were hardly discouraged by Charlie Clamp, the sandblaster charged with carving each of the 4,000 plus characters on the stone. During the hundreds of hours of work he spent etching on the guides, Clamp said that he had been constantly distracted by a strange music and disjointed voices. So, yeah.
Gotta love those disjointed voices.
Yeah, it's like, ugh. So for years, Martin thought that he might write a book, but now he knows he probably won't. Yeah, what he also won't do is allow anyone to look through the papers. When asked whether he's prepared to take what he knows to his grave, Martin replied that Christian would want him to do just that. All along, he said that who he was and where he came from had to be kept a secret. He said mysteries work that way. If you want to keep people interested, you can let them know only so much. And the rest is enshrouded in the vast sunny stillness, whatever that means. But yeah.
Ooh, so I like it.
Yeah, the Georgia Guidestones. So I think it's pretty trippy that we have like this weird apocalyptic monuments
in Georgia
country.
of all places,
and that it's not that old, because 1979 was not that long ago.
The 80s. Yeah.
And it's weird that he was so damn secretive about it, and if they only had like a $10,000 deposit, I feel like I don't know how much the entire project costs. I didn't really try to look it up. I should have, but
we'll keep you guessing on that one.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Add that to the places of spooky things to go see.
Yeah, I'd be down to see that. And in the drive, I have like photos of it and stuff. I forgot.
Cool.
Oh, let me pop them up on OBS very quick. This is. Oh, maybe not. Oh, yeah. So this is. I'm popping it up. You can't see it. I'm sorry, guys. But this is the monument compared to a person, taking a photo next to it.
So big.
Yeah, and then this is one angle of it. And then here's another angle of it. And you can kind of see a little plaque next to it, which is where that one mission statement is at. And yeah, so that is my story for today's episode.
Well, thank you very much, Miss Ange. I've got a very depressing, not so great true crime story. Are we ready?
Get us back into it, Taylor.
Yeah, we're gonna just rip that Band-Aid off
Give
real
it to
quick.
me. Yep.
So
It's good
we're
to
gonna
be
talk
back,
about...
guys.
So we're going to talk about Marcus Wesson. He was born in Kansas. He was the eldest of 4 children of Benjamin and Carrie Wesson. He was born August 22nd, 1946, not too far away from Angela's birthday. Quite a few years, but... They were raised as members of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, which is a Protestant Christian denomination. Saturday is the Sabbath and has an emphasis on the imminent the second coming of Jesus Christ. Teaches the Trinity and Scripture. It's kind of like, to my understanding, that a little bit that I looked into, it's like a little bit of Jewish, a little bit of Mormonism, and a little bit of Christianity, all wrapped up into one religion.
Okay.
So Wesson claimed that his mother was a religious fanatic. His father was an alcoholic and child abuser who abandoned the family when Wesson was a child. In the early 1960s, the family moved to San Bernardino, California. He was in his mid-teens, somewhere between 14 and 16 years old. He then proceeded to drop out of high school and join the Army and was stationed in Europe for a little bit of time. It's not very specific on exactly the timeline, but we'll get more details later. This is most of my information is coming from Wikipedia, and then I'll cite the other sources that I use later on. So he was in the Army in Europe, and then he left the military in 1968 and became involved with Rosemary Solorio. She was a married woman living in San Jose, California, and she was 13 years older than him as well. So at this point, he's only maybe 19.
Wait, by involved, do you mean they were having an affair?
They're getting it on.
Damn.
So much so that Rosemary left her husband and Wesson moved in with her and her children.
Oh my god.
That's awkward.
Okay.
Yeah. Here is a photo of that family right here popping up. Oh, I guess it's on this side. Anyway. She had 8 children with her previous husband, and they all lived...
8?
Yeah.
No wonder that lady left. Just kidding.
No, she stayed. The husband left.
Wait, I thought she... No, but I meant left him because he put all that stuff through her vagina through all that, you know?
Oh, yes. Okay. She okay. I get it now. Well, she was not done giving birth, let me tell you.
Oh dear.
She is a fertile lady. Jesus.
This all happened in the late 1960s, but in 1971, Rosemary gave birth to Wesson's first son. In 1974, Wesson is talking to Rosemary's daughter, saying that God has chosen her to be his bride, and they were married in a home wedding ceremony. Any guesses on how old she was?
12?
I don't know, 14?
She was 8 years old.
Man.
No.
I told you we're gonna hate this bastard.
This fucking guy.
So
Bad vibes from the start.
yeah. He began sexually abusing her at age 12, and at 15 they married legally when she became pregnant. And you might ask, what is going on with his wife, Rosemary / mother of Elizabeth, right? Well, she's all oh, honey, if God told you to marry my daughter, I consent to it. And so she A-okayed the 15-year-old to marry her, not biological father, but her dad.
Her stepdad. Her
Yeah.
stepdad, essentially.
And Elizabeth had her first child at 15, and during their marriage, they all together had 10 children. and one died as an infant. And there was a total of 5 boys and 4 girls that came from Elizabeth just herself.
Elizabeth was the young one.
She's
Yeah.
the one that was
Basically.
unofficially married at home at 8 years old, and then officially married at 15 because she was pregnant with
That's creepy.
her stepfather's baby.
Gross.
What a life. That's horrible.
So they're all living together, and at some point, things are a little hazy right now with like actual facts. But at some point, Elizabeth's younger sister, so Wesson's wife, who's the daughter of Rosemary, left and had kids of her own, 7 to be exact, that were from somebody else, from my understanding, because I'm not too sure, but I don't believe they were Wesson's actual kids. I think she fathered kids from somebody else. So she left and left those kids to live with Wesson and her older sister, Elizabeth.
So wait, okay. The first wife
So Mama Bear had 8 kids.
Okay.
One of them is Wesson's child.
Okay.
One of the younger daughters married Wesson and had a lot of kids with them.
Okay.
That sister had other children with somebody else and left those children, his niece and nephew / grandchildren, with him and her sister, and was like, peace out, I don't want these kids anymore, you'll take care of them, type of thing.
Okay.
So she left 7 kids behind, so now there's 15 kids all together living under this roof.
Okay.
And
15. Fuck.
Yeah. And fun fact, Wesson never really had a stable job. He lived off of welfare and had his adult children work and give him all of his yearnings over the years as they grew up. In 1989, Wesson was convicted of welfare fraud and perjury. The family often lived in rundown shacks, boats, and vacant houses. Surprise not, Wesson was abusive to his wife and children. He prevented Elizabeth, who was his second wife, technically, the daughter, right? From participating in the children's upbringing. He homeschooled the children, saying that the outside world was full of sin and danger. He taught them from his own handwritten Bible that focused on Jesus Christ being a vampire. He told his children... Yeah, right?
Oh, this guy.
And the reason why he made the link that Jesus Christ was a vampire, because they both had eternal life and multiple husbands.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
I guess, but that's still...
He told his children that he was God and had them refer to him as Master or Lord. And here's another picture of just like the family all together. This is like everyone from my understanding. Then again, these are just Google photos, so this could be just some random photo of some random family.
Photo of a family.
So, but I'm pretty sure this is legit because it was like one of the first photos that popped up. It's just he's not in it, so that's what makes me question it. But as you can see, there's them.
He was
right
taking
there.
the photo.
He taught the children to be prepared for Armageddon and said that the girls were destined to become Wesson's future wives. So his daughters, from his stepdaughter, are going to be his future wives.
No.
So that's like legitimately like inbreeding now.
Yes.
Before it was like, oh, it's my stepdad.
Yeah, but now it's like, oh, it's my real dad.
Yeah. So at a certain point of their ages, he would separate the boys from the girls, fearing that they would develop sexual feelings for each other. He had the boys stay in a shack in a heavily wooden area and the girls on a rundown boat for several months at a time. Wesson sexually abused 2 daughters and 3 nieces, quote, marrying each one in home, ceremonies when they were around 7 or to 9 years old. Sorry, that was a firework. I don't know if you heard that.
I did.
Each of the 5 girls became pregnant as a result of incest. The mothers never disclosed the paternity of their children because Wesson threatened to harm them and the children if they did so, even though he already was on a continuous basis. But hey, could get worse. He also threatened, like there's a couple sources that he said that he would threaten to slowly torture them to death as well, and I feel like that is way worse. So, court records indicate that Wesson fathered up to 18 children with 7 women and girls, including his 5 daughters and then 2 nieces. According to he's like the worst fucking person. So this story in general is about him, but this family and the way that he brainwashed them for years over years is that it became kind of like a cult. So the official story is the Wesson family cult that we're going to go into now. So according to the LA Times, Wesson spanked the children but offered an explanation, quote, "Well, you know I love you still, and the only reason I'm doing this is to make you a better person." Oh, Dexter, how the fuck did he get in here? Dexter was not in here with me. Did you guys see the door open?
He teleported. I didn't see him coming.
Oh, hold on. I'm sorry. 1 second.
Oh, please hold for Dexter.
So, what was I saying? Wesson spanked the children, and Rosera Solorio quoted him saying, "Well, you know I love you still, and the only reason I'm doing this is to make you a better person." So, it wasn't necessarily because they did something bad. It was like, I just feel like spanking you right now. Rosa was one of his grandchildren / daughters. By the way,
Grandchildren /
granddaughter /
Because
daughter.
had sex with his daughter, and they had a daughter, and that was his
Oh my
daughter /
god!
grandchild.
Were they like? Did they have
Did they come out like weird? Like
issues,
did they have, like,
genetic disorders, or?
Yeah.
I didn't
Any result of
see
inbreeding?
anything of those nation, and what happens here in the end, we'll maybe bring that back up, okay? He would also beat the kids with a stick wrapped in duct tape and razor blades. He made the family watch vampire movies, took vampire names, and the prosecutor suggested fashion a lifestyle with vampiric elements, including multiple wives. And when his house was raided, they came across 10 different vintage coffins.
What the fuck?
So,
this fucking guy.
this guy is the worst. Wesson also practiced what he called, quote, loving, which was teaching the girls how to please their future husbands, which would turn around to be him one day. Yeah.
Ew!
Boys were encouraged to leave home when they grew up and then send all their money to him, but the woman occupied a dual role, be his daughter and niece, and also his wife. His blood daughters, Kiani, Sebrahena, and nieces Rosa, Ruby, and Sophina married Wesson and agreed to have his children because they viewed themselves as surrogates for Elizabeth, their mother / aunt, who, according to testimony, could no longer have children. Wesson told the women who were not allowed to date and wore long skirts and scarves they were having babies for the Lord.
Yeah.
No.
He's evil.
So at some point, Ruby and Sophina, which were his nieces / wives, left Wesson and left their children with him. I don't know when exactly that was, but they were just like, be gone. Excuse me. So this all happened over time, and we're going to fast forward to March 12th, 2004. Remember that he first met the mom, Rosemary, in the late 1960s and started having children in 1971 and more children past that and stuff, right? To lead up to this 18 children under one household situation. And so this has been going on for about 33 years. Wesson declared
Holy
to
shit.
relocate his daughters and their children, his grandchildren / children, to Washington State from San Jose, where his parents lived. Ruby and Sophina, his niece / wives that left and were like, here, keep the children, and came back and they're like, no, we want our kids. And they came with some extended family as well. They demanded the release of their children, which they had left there, at the family compound at 761 Hammond Avenue. They learned that Wesson was still having sex and children with his daughters and nieces, breaking a promise they said he made to stop, which we all know is just bullshit anyway. A longtime predator like this wouldn't just stop. So according to the LA Times and testimony, there was pushing, name-calling, yelling, and tears. Sophina tried grabbing her son, and the child was pulled away from her. In the doorway, Wesson blocked others from entering. Sophina testified that Kiani, Sebrahena, and Rosa, and 17-year-old Elizabeth, so this is not the second wife who was the stepdaughter, this is his
Different Elizabeth.
granddaughter / wife.
Okay.
began taunting her and her sister with chants of Judas, and was called an adulterer for leaving their household. And that just shows like how brainwashed they were, because they were siding with their abuser versus their sisters who got away from everything.
Seriously, holy shit.
According to murderpedia.org, Fresno police were summoned to what was described as a child custody issue, and a standoff ensued. During the course of the standoff, Wesson, who at first appeared cooperative to the police, was permitted to step away and go back into his house. Fresno police testified they did not hear gunshots being fired shortly after, though other witnesses present at the standoff testified that they did hear gunshots fired at the time. So that's a little controversial, but we'll get into that. In the aftermath, 9 bodies of Wesson's daughters and their children were discovered in a bedroom filled with antique coffins, like I said. Each victim had been shot through the eye. Wesson's other children, who were not present inside the house, survived the incident. So he only had, out of the 18, 9 of them were murdered.
And is that how many coffins he had?
He had 10.
Oh.
That I read about once.
He should have shot himself.
Yeah. Well, authorities relayed a twisted scene of death of the house with the bodies of young women and small children intertwined with clothing and stacked together in a back bedroom. The bodies were so entangled that it took hours for police to confirm the number of dead. Police Chief Jerry Dyer said there may have been some kind of ritual involved, but we have to make that determination. Wesson was, of course, arrested. So the victims, let's see, I have a picture. Here's a picture of Wesson being arrested. I read on Wikipedia and also somewhere else, I think it might have been the LA Times, I'm not sure, that he went inside, like he was blocking the doors so that his, so the 2 women couldn't grab their children, and then the police came by, and then he was allowed to go back into the house, and when he came back out, he surrendered, but he was bloody. And this is the picture that I have right here showing right now is him being arrested. And it shows some like discoloration on his shirt, which could honestly be the light. It could be dirt. But there's other photos on the Google Drive that he wasn't bloody. And I don't believe he was bloody. I think that was just kind of a dramatic effect that was added into Wikipedia. Because more of the facts that we'll go over just doesn't add up to that. And then here's a picture of all the victims. They are Sabrina April Wesson, who is 25. Elizabeth Kina Wesson. I'm sorry, I can't speak, so you know. She was 17 years old. Illabelle Carrie Wesson was 8. Aviv Dominique Wesson was 7. Jonathan St. Charles Wesson was 7. Sidonia Solorio Wesson was 2. Marshy St. Christopher Wesson was also 2. Ethan St. Laurent Wesson was 4. And Jeva St. Valis, I didn't spell that correctly. There's no way. Anyway, Wesson was only 1 year old. So all very young, all had a lot of life ahead of them, and it was all taken away from them because they were all brainwashed into thinking that this man that provided them everything and totally destroyed their lives without them really knowing anything differently. So yeah, that's that. Let's get into some of the facts and kind of what happened after that standoff. LA Times said that the defense for Wesson says that Sabrina placed a gun to the socket of each child's right eye and fired, killing her own son and 6 of their siblings. Experts testified that Sabrina and Elizabeth, those are the 2 women, the oldest ones, died an hour to 2 hours after the children, bolstering the defense's argument that after killing the children, Sabrina turned the gun on 17-year-old Elizabeth and then on herself. So that he didn't have anything to do with it other than maybe like being present on the scene and not like reacting to it.
The heck?
A .22 caliber Ruger Mark II pistol, as well as a knife, was found underneath Sabrina's body. The coroner testified that Sabrina's Wesson's wound could have been self-inflicted, the gunshot wound that killed her. Jurors were told that Wesson's fingerprints were not found on the pistol and that gunshot residue was not found on his hands. Another weird fact was that Sabrina's fingerprints were not found on the weapon, but her DNA was present. Her hands were also free of residue. So it's a possibility that he took the gun and he wiped it and then placed it with her. However, it doesn't make sense of like who shot the gun because there's no gunshot residue on anybody's hands. However, there's gunshot wounds in the children and they were alive before that day. You know, it's not like they've been dead forever in that room piling up. So that's a kind of weird, and that never really got clarified. The prosecution is fighting that even if he didn't pull the trigger himself, he influenced his children to kill themselves or kill each other. So there's a lot more info and things that can be found on the website, but it's also a long story about the trial and everything that went down. So I'm just going to wrap it up here. Here's a picture of the bastard himself. He was convicted of 9 counts of first-degree murder on June 17, 2005, almost a year after everything went down, and also found guilty of 14 counts of forcible rape and sexual molestation of 7 of his daughters and nieces. Wesson was sentenced to death on June 27, 2005, and is currently in San Quentin State Prison, and he is 73 years old.
Wow. What a sick fucking... Yeah. And this happened in the 60s to the 2000s, you said?
So he met Mama Bear in the late 1960s, had his first son with that person in 1971, and then 74 he had his second child, but it was from his stepdaughter. So it had been a good 30 years of abuse plus more.
Wow. I hope that when he got into prison, like, he probably got raped and shit in prison, because usually like child molesters, they pretty much get what's coming to them, when they get into prison. Like, prisoners don't play like that.
But
So
who fucking knows why he did all this, and like who knows where his other children who did survive, what they're doing, how they're doing, and all that shit. But yeah, that's my really sad and depressing story for the week. Welcome back, really everybody. Depressing. Everyone's favorite, I swear. No, I'm kidding.
All right, Lexi, what do you got?
All right. Well, I have more of a lighthearted, sort of fun story. I'm going back to, my favorite kinds of stories. It's a cryptid / urban legend story. Ooh. And this cryptid is one I had never heard of before, and I just stumbled upon it. It's called the Hairy Man of the Vergas Trail. So it's very, Bigfoot-esque, which is right up my alley, as you know. But the Vergas Trail is in Minnesota. So for the last 5 decades, the legend of the Hairy Man of the Vergas Trail has intrigued many of those who have decided to venture out into this very secluded foresty area. And there are actually a number of stories along like the paranormal side of things on the Vergas Trail, some including the glowing headstones, ghosts of little kids leaving handprints on cars, and also a history of cults chasing people. But the one that's the most popular is the Hairy Man of the Vergas Trail. So Vergas is a small town in west central Minnesota. Just over 300 people live in the town. And it's, sort of like a back road kind of town. Lots of little dirt roads and trails, and it's home to the Vergas Trail, which the Hairy Man allegedly lives. So over the years, the urban legend has sort of been floating around the area. So the Hairy Man of Vergas Trail has been described as an 8 feet tall man having very long, straggly hair, a musty smell, and he's always barefoot, which is very strange, especially in the wintertime in Minnesota. It's freaking cold.
It's like Bigfoot's strange cousin.
I know, right? It's strange.
It's like if Bigfoot and a human had a baby.
Angela, I think you might have figured it out.
That's it. Who's Ladyfoot?
Who's Ladyfoot? Yeah, I don't know. So this hairy man has been blamed for the deaths of animals around the area. And his existence has started in the 60s and peaked in the 70s and then sort of tapered off after the 80s. But there have been some sort of recent things with this. So a lot of people in the area are like, oh, it's just a legend. But then you have that handful of people that are like, no, I I've seen the hairy man with my own eyes. So, yeah, very strange. But again, allegedly he's been known to be very aggressive, humanoid, 8 feet tall. So no one really knows, I guess, what has started the legend. The origins of it are unknown, but there have been numerous eyewitness accounts of the hairy man. So a lot of the consistencies in the accounts consist of like a shaggy long-haired creature with sort of a gross or odor. One of the first sightings was in the late 60s. This was by these 2 women who were snowmobiling by their cabin. It was a girl and her cousin. They were 12 years old at the time, and they were sort of, sledding and snowmobiling around their cabin. And while doing that, they found all of a sudden a beast-like creature popped up out of the cabin holding a huge stick. It had very broad shoulders and and the women were trying to rationalize what it was, but what really stood out to them was that he was barefoot in the snow. So he has like human feet that are barefoot in the snow. They're like, what the hell? And so they ran off. I know. Ain't you cold? So to this day, and these women experienced this when they were like 12 years old. They can't drive out there alone on the Vergas Trail where their cabin is. They have campfires and still go camping out there, but no one dares to wander out in the woods alone because they're afraid of seeing whatever they saw that day. So another pretty well-known eyewitness account is from Ken Zitow. So he was a regular visitor on the Vergas Trail, and he came back after one night, and he was pretty shaken up after what he saw. So he came back after hiking on the trail, and his car had large dents in the hood, and allegedly he had seen like a big hairy creature like standing on his car after seeing these dents, and that's what he thinks caused the dents. Who fucking knows? But so yeah, a lot of people get weird vibes on the trail. And then there was a very strange artifact found on the trail. So people thought like, oh, this is just a legend, this isn't real, whatever. But I think this is in like the early 2000s, Kim Doyle, the owner of the gas station, she found a very strange artifact. It was a humanoid-like skull, which I will show a picture of on my thing. So they found this skull on the trail, and she's had it for, I guess, a few years at this point. And then she's like, oh, I found this weird skull. It's been passed down through generations. Whatever it is, it doesn't look human. And so it's kind of strange. It's very humanoid looking. It sort of has like a elevated skull, like forehead kind of thing. But
Who knows?
yeah,
That's
who
fucking
knows?
crazy.
So
No big deal. I'm gonna
there
start
might
that
just be
trend
a
in my
hairy
family.
man.
I'm gonna start passing down a skull. I have one fake one right here.
right.
I'm just gonna
Yeah,
pass
this
it
is
down, and people will question it. No big deal.
I know. But I guess some show on Sci-Fi back in 2012 did like an investigation on the Vergas Trail hairy man, and they had some other people come out and like say that they've seen them, but who fucking knows if this hairy man is real or fake or a legend.
It's someone who's like super tall that has a Bigfoot costume but lost the feet for it. And they're just
He's like,
There
I'm
we
so
go.
determined to scare people, but I lost the feet and I just want to be noticed.
I just want to be a real man.
I know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of a fun legend in Vergas, so people there really believe in it, which I think is fun. And as a Bigfoot fanatic, I think I should go visit and just ask some questions. Be like, so
that'd be cool. There's so
He's
much
a great man.
Camping.
I know. Yeah,
That'd be
but
cool.
that's what I got for y'all. Hairy
Cool
man,
story.
short but sweet.
It works out perfectly because I'm getting so tired.
I know.
Nearly 11 p.m., which is past
I'm
my
ready to
bedtime.
get ready for
Bedtime.
work.
I know. Ooh, fun stuff.
Oh, it's
Well,
gonna
on
be.
that
It's
note-
gonna be something.
Yeah.
You guys can find us on Instagram at whofken knows. You can find us at our website, www.whofkenknows.com. If you're watching us on YouTube, click that subscribe button. And if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, don't forget to give us a rating. We really appreciate it and love to see your guys' feedback. And if you're on Spotify, hit that follow button as well. We're sorry that we kept you guys hanging for a while. It's been like, I think I'm gonna just say this because I feel like I need to like say it now or I'll never say it, but like my father passed away and I don't know, so it was a tough time for me and my family, and yeah, I just didn't feel like doing anything, especially not recording stuff, so that's that.
Yep.
But yeah, thanks
His
for
love
listening.
of aliens will live on through the podcast.
Yeah, he's the one who taught me. He's the one who like instilled that in me, like love for aliens and ancient civilizations. So he lives on.
Yes.
Number one fan mode. Alrighty, till next time, friends. Bye.
Bye.